And then somewhere in there, somewhere early in 2001, I decided it was no longer enough just to talk about God. I started using my column to talk to him. I want to read you the first of those columns in its entirety. This ran in February of 2001, I believe, and it said, "So I was hanging out with God down at the park one afternoon, playing our regular game of one-on-one. As usual, he blanked me. It is not widely known, but God is unstoppable once he gets the ball in the low post. Afterward, I asked if it was true what this Indian guy said about it. God hadn't seen the paper, so I showed him the story. It seems this fellow named T. John, an official in the Indian province of Karnataka, was forced to resign over remarks he made in a speech to some students. He told them that last week's earthquake was an act of revenge by God for attacks by Hindus on the country's Christian minority. The quake claimed upwards of 12,000 lives. I asked God again, is it true? God sighed. A breeze rattled the tree leaves. Does T. John know anything about those 12,000 people? He asked finally. Do you? Can you tell me which ones persecuted Christians and which ones were Christians themselves, or Muslims, or Jews? Can you describe the ones who stole from the poor or mistreated children? Can you name the ones who gave bread to the hungry or read to the blind? I shrugged and said, of course I can't. God said, I can. Those people did not die for revenge. Then why? I caught myself, remembering how teed off he got with Job for pestering him with questions. But to my relief, God smiled. The sun glanced through the clouds. I know, he said, you want a world without pain, a world without suffering and loss. But that would also be a world without healing, without joy and redemption. Each one gives meaning to the other. God stood and went to practice his free throws. So, I said, you don't bring calamity on people to teach them lessons? I didn't say that, said God, lining up his shot. I mean, I thought Chicago needed to learn humility, so I gave them the Cubs. The ball fell soundlessly through the net. Adam Sandler movies, he said, are my way of saying support your local library. So I am not above sending messages. Well, if that's the case, I said, then why are you so bothered by this T. John? It's simple, said God. People like him irk me because they're always quoting me when I haven't said anything to them, always ascribing their own petty motives to me. They're forever putting my name into some cockamamie thing that has nothing to do with me. It's not just him. It's the people who declare war, claiming I told them to do it. It's that TV preacher who said I was going to kill him unless people gave him money. It's that crowd that claims I sent AIDS as a judgment against some of my children. It's the ones who hate in my name. And the worst thing, said God, is that the things I do say, no one seems to pay any attention. I tell you to take care of one another. I tell you to honor your parents. I tell you to stop stealing, killing, and coveting. I tell you that I love you. Yeah, I told him, but you said those things centuries ago. People forget. I remind you every day, said God. He threw the ball to me. I threw it back and bodied up on him as he started his dribble. I remind you every day, he said again, in sunrises and silences, in breezes and in smiles, in poetry, in jazz, in love, and even in tears. Even in tears, I remind you of what is good, of how you ought to be. You know what the problem is, he said, as he backed me toward the hoop? You people make so much noise, you hardly ever hear me. You talk so much, I can't get a word in edgewise. You need to hush sometimes. You need to listen. Suddenly he spun off me and put up this hook shot. that hung in the air like possibility itself, then dropped through the net without moving the cords. As I said, he is unstoppable in the post.